That ought to do it. Where'd she go? Gee, it's kind of dark. You bring a light? No. Well, maybe a Koopa will lend us his, if we persuade him.
When did you read for the Mario part?
Goodness gracious, probably about maybe 3 months before they actually did the game. It's very interesting because back then everything was still CD-ROM, and so it was kind of a really new kind of a thing. A few people were just delving into the digital workstations. Other than that, everything was still quarter-inch tape or multi-track.
And how long did you spend in the booth recording those lines?
The game is honestly probably not more. I would think overall for all the characters, maybe 2 hours.
It was 2 hours in the booth for
Right,
you, but
right.
People like me are still harassing
I don't know
you
that they're
about it.
not necessarily talking about it in a great way, but yeah, no, I was actually amazed to find out the amount of content that's on YouTube and across the internet and quotes, and where they've done cutscenes where they replace their, either use the existing audio and put in all kinds of silly stuff. It was kind of fun to see it come to a whole new life. Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're one of the only people involved in those titles in any way to have had a positive
So you're
reaction.
pointing fingers, huh? Oh, you said the word positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're the only one who said, well, this is kind of neat. Other people are like, what's that? Or, oh, God, this is horrible.
Creating a character like that, you have really no idea that it's going to kind of go to this whole different level where it's like, really? People take things very, very seriously. I was in the mall one time with my daughter. This has been years ago. And I had done whatever the evil guy was in Warcraft. There was like a big 12-foot cutout of the character that I played. And my daughter goes, oh, look, Dad, there's the guy you play. And these guys were immediately, well, what happens when you get to level? And it was like, I don't, oh, sure, you're with a voice. And they got very indignant. It was like, I apologize. I just was reading the script.
Right. People get very attached to the voices in particular. It's this emotional attachment. And people think that because they're so attached, the people who voice the characters must also, they must have been there when they were writing it or coding the game.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, they think you're much more involved with it than what you actually are. It takes a multitude of pieces all put together to make a game.
When I read what the reaction people had to Hotel Mario, and it was sort of interesting because people rediscovered it
Right.
after it, and it's almost like people had a negative reaction to how Mario sounded. Right. Honestly, because it wasn't what they were used to. Is that frustrating that just because it's different?
No, just leave me alone, okay? You don't need to bring that up. No, the interesting thing is anytime you're doing a voice session, you're really relying on the director, and if they sign off on it and go, gee, that's great. I mean, now, there are times where you go, well, could I try that one more time? I think I could do it a hint better. But normally what happens in a session like that is you'll go through a litany of voices. They may play you the audition so that you go, oh, okay, it's that. But even during the session, maybe, let's go a little higher. No, can you pour this on, do this? No, make the accent thicker. Can you pull that back a little bit? And there's some that are it's very interesting. It can go everywhere from, a Grand Theft Auto game playing a black, pimp, which is politically incorrect. But it's, hey, motherfucker, get the fuck, man, this is bullshit. And it's like, okay, well, I really don't want my name on that, thank you. Or Irish, it's all of a sudden you're doing this kind of thing. Oh, what's the matter with you, boy? Well, now an Irishman's going to listen to that and go, God, you're so full of crap. But the American ear, it's kind of, a cross between real Irish brogue and Lucky Charms. So they assume, oh yeah, that's Irish. Where an actual Irishman would go, that's not even close. Yeah. Exactly.
I have some comments here from people.
Here it comes.
Right. Mario sounds like a garbage man from Staten Island.
Well, that's not all bad, I guess. Yeah. Unless you don't like Staten Island.
Mario and Hotel Mario sounds like someone who might complain about not getting to rent in a bad 70s gumshoe flick. But they're kind of beating around the bush that he sounds like an Italian plumber from New York, which is how he's supposed to sound.
That would be your reference. It's like, okay, he's a plumber from New York, so that's the first thing you're going to do. But it's the same premise as
You know, instead of doing the Joe Pesci voice where the guy's up like this, talking 150 miles an hour, maybe put some weight on the guy and bring him down so he's like, you know, weighs a couple of more pounds, make him stupid. So like he's not that smart. Or even if, you know, if it's like the head of the plumber, you might even bring him down to this level. You know, change the pipe or I'm going to break your arm. You're creating your own voice during an audition, and hopefully something they will hear, they'll go, gee, that's wonderful, and you'll book the job. There are situations where you're strictly at their mercy. In other words, they're telling you, no, do this, do this, do this. In fact, this is a great example. We had a video game, Unnamed. It was a military game.
Okay.
And the direction must have gone on seriously for 20 minutes. Okay. This isn't, he's not an officer, okay? He's an enlisted man, but he has a command like an officer. Okay, so when he talks, the men listen to him. But yet he's not an officer up here, he's still one of the guys. And it goes on and on and on and on. Okay, let's do the line. Yes, sir. That's the line.
Right.
And it's like, really? No, what happens sometimes is that you get so much direction, your brain's
Right.
you're keeping that very straight. Well, yes, you know, I am a thespian. Do you smell that? You know what I'm bringing to this role. But the reality is your brain's going, oh, I got lost about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, some directors think that if they say, well, he's an officer, but he's one of the, they think that that's nuance, and that
Right.
will help.
But it's
give
very
the
funny
act-
again when the line is yes sir.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, I think you could do 10 in a row and come up with something. It was like, oh, okay. I remember one time playing a troll, and the direction was, I love the size of him. Now make it sweatier. You know, and you don't want to go, what the hell does that mean? So you do, oh yeah, the sweaty troll voice, and your brain's doing the Homer Simpson, you know, with the gears locking up. Usually what happens, if you throw something back, then they will finally go, yes, like that, and actually give you direction now that makes sense.